Welcome to this video, which is in the category of deep spirituality. And the title is Freedom from Spiritual Slavery. In the recent past, we have witnessed a widespread uproar arising out of social consciousness against the atrocities that are committed against humanity in various countries. The Black Lives Matter movement in the USA, liberation of people in Hong Kong, and in the recent past, the genocide in Myanmar, as well as the human suffering due to war in Yemen, Syria, and Ukraine very recently. This cannot have a political solution. I am truly convinced with my knowledge that today's the political agenda is not driven by true freedom of entire humanity. The only way that we can avoid conflict, distinction, and segmentation and fracturing of society is through uplifting each and every individual's consciousness. This is called by various psychologists and spiritual people as individuation process. I take 3 stories from sacred scriptures to give you an example of what this transformation and transcendence means. The first story is a story of Exodus in the Old Testament in the Hebrew Bible, in which Moses liberates the people from slavery of Egypt into the promised land. This is not a straightforward process. Here is a lengthy process involved. Right from the time the Passover takes place, crossing of the Red Sea, and 40 years in the desert are signposts of initiation. The sacrificial lamb with its blood smeared on the doorway, illumination through a pillar of cloud in daytime and pillar of fire during the night, and 40 years in the desert are more symbolic than totally historical. Finally, the liberation of settlement in the land flowing with milk and honey, the final reward. These are given as symbols so that we understand the true nature of spiritual liberation. The second event is from the New Testament and life of Jesus Christ. This happened very topically as we celebrate the feast of Easter today. The same sacrificial lamb symbolism or archetype is used or mapped onto Christ in his life, where he sacrificed on the cross for the salvation of humanity and redemption. When we make this statement, we make a big mistake, that individual responsibility of change of consciousness towards a higher level is completely taken off by a single act of something that happened 2000 years back. The second one, which was not even understood by any of the apostles who were close to him, was that Christ coming to the world was for liberation of people from the slavery of the Roman occupation. These are things which really have to be totally looked at from a new dimension, as Christ as a sacrificial lamb, and in his resurrection, he portrayed the process of upliftment of one's conscious to the higher level. What then happens during the Easter day is critical in our analysis. After 3 days in the tomb, Jesus resurrects. But the process of resurrection is by going down into hell and coming back. What is the meaning? Because many people theologically question, how can the Son of God go to hell and come back? But the real meaning is that unless you conquer darkness, one cannot see the light or be truly a spiritual person. The Christ who resurrected is totally a different person from the Christ who was actually merely physically present with a certain amount of higher level of consciousness before his death on the cross. So even Christ is subjected to this specific process so that every one of us could understand what is involved. That is why the apostles who are still very much in the material realm could not understand what happens when they visit the tomb and say the body is not there. For them, Christ was nothing but the body. Mary Magdalene, who had a higher insight, sees Jesus in the garden and tries to hold on to him. And Jesus says, Mary, do not hold me, for I am not yet whole. The spiritual manifestation or spiritual transformation is a process that takes place in various stages. The 40 days Christ remains in this world is a process of transformation until he attains the final stature of transcendence to a higher level. This is the meaning of ascension into heaven after 40 days. The third narrative is from Kathopanishad, where Nachiketa, the young boy, whose father wanted to take sannyas, is offering all his wealth to people. But Nachiketa, being a very observant boy, he sees that father is offering all old things, sickly cows. And so he asks his father, both to test and out of curiosity, will you also offer me? To which unwittingly his father says, yes, I will do it. And so he is sent down to Yama. But Yama is not there for 3 days. So when Yama returns and sees Nachiketa waiting at the gate, he tells him, I am very sorry for holding you for 3 days. But having been here, I will grant you 3 boons. The first boon is very important. This is what has relevance to today's. And Nachiketa very intelligently asked him, when I go back, let my father recognize me without animosity. If Nachiketa goes back in his original body or original form, there will be no problem for his father to recognize him and he will only be too glad. But why did he ask this particular boon? Because every transformation involves a new manifestation. New manifestation will not be seen by ordinary people in their normal level of consciousness. They have to have a higher spiritual consciousness to observe this particular vision. So also you see that is the case with Jesus, by not being recognized by the people, including his apostles, until he explicitly tells them certain historical events so that they can relate to the new vision they see. These are the themes I have narrated, along with several quotes from Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung, the Bible and Kathopanishad in my blog article as well as in my published book. Read my full article, Called Out of Bondage, page 100 in my book. And thank you for watching and listening, and have a great life.